After being a vicious female supporting character 99 times, he decided to quit. Why should the author have the power to easily control their lives with a single word, and always force them to be demoted, just to pave the way for the main leads? This life, he's decided to be a kind villain, trying to change my villainous father, hoping to rewrite my tragic fate. This girl, despised by all, is about to face her 99th death. She did nothing wrong, yet suffers because of her father's misdeeds. To end up like this, sometimes, I feel so helpless. I'm the daughter of a villain. Thinking about it, he looked at the man before him, the man who was about to end his life. Clearly, they shared equally tragic childhoods, but because he's the male lead, he can become a king revered by all. He's truly the author's favorite son. The king said, as long as he kneels and begs for mercy now, he can commit suicide by poison, without suffering a painful arrow to the heart here. But for the girl, it's death either way. So she simply dared the king to bring it on. The king, enraged, raised his sword high. Just as the girl thought everything would finally end, he returned once again to the familiar space of souls. All the characters in this world were created by the author. They can be roughly divided into protagonists and supporting characters. The protagonist has their own self-awareness, while the supporting characters can only advance the plot according to the author's design. Any actions that go against a character's setting are not allowed. But the girl is a professional supporting actress. She's played the villain's daughter 99 times. The monotonous villainous character settings once drove her crazy. As long as she enters the world of the book, she will lose her original memories. Then, like a puppet, she'll follow the plot. But the 99th life he just finished was the hardest challenge he'd faced so far. Dad was an obsessive, fixated on mom. He ignored him since childhood. Never asked about him. If Dad could have been a daughter-obsessed dad, maybe their family's ending wouldn't have been so tragic. But unfortunately, as the vicious female supporting character, she didn't have a chance to be reborn. The author only shows mercy to her protagonists. Just as the girl thought this, a strange light suddenly appeared around her body. How come her 100th life has arrived so quickly this time? I hope this life won't be so tragic. The girl had just finished making a wish, when she heard familiar shouts of abuse, and she was surprised to find that, this time, she wasn't observing the ranting redhead as a baby. Alice. She unconsciously called out her name. As a result, Alice ended up with a big dog. You little brat. How dare you call me by my name so casually? The girl then realized that the maid in front of her was the wicked head maid who had tormented her in her past life. Why is Alice involved with her in this life? That's too absurd. And this familiar surrounding environment, and this familiar head of black hair, could it be that he finally received the author's mercy, and was reborn? And the current timeline, it was the perfect opportunity for mom to escape dad and find temporary lodging. Then, while she and her daughter were suffering inhumane abuse, just as he was stunned, the hateful Viscount arrived. He was ready to imprison him. But thinking that dad would soon come to rescue him, the girl bravely stood up. She yelled at the Baron, do you know who my father is? You dare make me a slave? But nobody took the girl's words to heart. The Baron was even more arrogant and fearless. After all, dad didn't even know the girl existed. Then he mercilessly dumped the girl on Alice. He made him lock the girl in the warehouse. Hearing, warehouse, the girl immediately realized something was wrong. Following the plot, he would always stay with his mother, and his mother's only time in the warehouse was when she died. Sure enough, after he was thrown into the warehouse, he saw his mother's cold corpse. The girl instantly burst into tears. Damn author, why did you have to make him reborn? At this moment, he still couldn't save his mother in this life. The only woman who had ever given him warmth amidst so much trouble, had left him forever. Suddenly, the girl heard a faint sound behind her. He immediately turned around to check. But I discovered a blonde boy in the corner. Because in my past life, I died at the hands of the blonde male lead. That's why I have a psychological shadow about blonde hair. Come to think of it, the male lead is about my age. Could this boy be the male lead? But the male lead shouldn't be here right now. To confirm whether he is the male lead or not, the girl directly lifted his bangs. She saw his pitch black eyes. Only then did he finally breathe a sigh of relief. It seems he is not the male lead. The male lead should have golden eyes. He apologized to the boy for his rudeness. But he quickly realized something was wrong. According to the vicious female supporting character setting, he shouldn't be doing these things. But now it seems there are no such restrictions. To verify his guess, he started to show concern for the boy. He hadn't expected to be able to say it all so smoothly. This excited the girl immensely. But soon he noticed something was wrong with the boy. Why was he always huddled silently in the corner? Just as he was about to go and investigate, the boy's stomach let out a loud rumble. The girl realized he was hungry. She proudly offered him her croissant. But the boy kept refusing. This angered the girl. She'd finally tried to be a kind villain. This kid is so ungrateful. So the girl grabbed him, and stuffed the croissant into his mouth. Sorry, My hand slipped, and I accidentally threw it into your mouth. After all this commotion, the boy finally agreed to eat his croissant. The two grew closer because of the croissant. The girl learned that the boy's name was Xian. After chatting for a while, they both went to sleep. When the girl woke up again, she discovered that Xian was nowhere to be found. Could this kid have escaped unnoticed all by himself? But soon he had no time to worry about Xian, because the wall behind him suddenly exploded. Then a man who looked 90% like him rushed in, hugging his mother tightly. It turned out to be his obsessive father who finally arrived. The Devil Duke, in his search for his wife, was prepared to turn the entire empire upside down. But when he finally found her, his wife was a cold corpse. She left him a young daughter who looked exactly like him. But he didn't care about his daughter's life or death. He only wanted to resurrect his wife. Little did he know, this act ultimately led to the destruction of the entire family. And the girl, reborn, knew this melodramatic plot all too well. So, facing her crazy father again, his heart was filled with immense sorrow. Sure enough, upon learning of his mother's death, he almost choked him to death with magic without a second thought. I'm really speechless. Couldn't he have taken a closer look at his face before losing it? Anyone could tell they were mother and son, alright? And this 5-year-old, who's as weak as a kitten, how could he possibly be a murderer? Luckily, the knight commander beside my father is a reasonable man. He recognized him at a glance. That Duke. Don't you find this child's hair color and copper color familiar? And he also called the wife Mom. The scene became extremely awkward for a moment. Finally, Dad stopped his outburst. Then, he asked the troop leader to take the girl with them. They would conduct a paternity test later when they had time. They walked down the long corridor, to where the Viscount was being held. The moment the Viscount saw my father, he immediately began to beg for mercy. Your Grace, this is a terrible misunderstanding. When the lady stayed at our house, I couldn't tell she was a noble. How could I have possibly known she was a duchess? Hearing this, the girl couldn't help but roll her eyes. That woman clearly accepted the Black Panther brooch representing the Duke's family back then. He even dares to lie through his teeth here. Luckily, father didn't spoil him. He directly grabbed his hair. I've been spreading the word that I'm searching for the Duchess everywhere. Don't you know anything at all? It seems the Viscount is still being stubborn. The girl directly jumped out and identified him. He knew it all along. He deliberately concealed it, because he hates our family. Even when Mom was sick, he didn't care at all. They still treated me like a slave. In the end, they even locked us in a dark, airless warehouse. Seeing the girl's tattered clothes, my father was more inclined to believe the girl. So next, he made a baffling decision. He actually let the 5-year-old girl decide the Viscount's punishment. This is to prove he is of the Duke's bloodline. At first, the Viscount thought he had finally escaped death. Little did he know, the girl was even more ruthless and stubborn than the Duke. Since that's the case, Viscount, let's start by playing with your little finger, shall we? After all, you know, our family has always been known for its wickedness, so this is nothing. The Viscount, hearing these ferocious words, quickly tugged at the girl's clothes, begging for mercy. But the girl only looked at him with icy eyes. It's too late to beg for mercy now. I'll start by eating your fingers and toes. After all, it wouldn't be fun to start from the neck. The nearby squad leader, hearing such vicious words from a 5-year-old girl, trembled with fear. Truly worthy of being the Duke's direct descendant. So bloodthirsty at such a young age. And Dad seemed very pleased with the girl's performance. He suddenly remarked that the girl's eyes were a little like his. Of course, in the end, they didn't do anything to the Viscount. Instead, the fellow fainted from fright. Then they also found the unconscious Xian in the warehouse. Seeing Xian being carried out at that moment, the girl immediately became extremely nervous. She quickly tugged at her father's sleeve, begging him to spare Xian. But her father suddenly chuckled and said, "Who said I was going to kill that boy?" He then ordered for Xian to be taken back to the Duke's residence for treatment. After handling matters at the Duke's residence, the girl got into the carriage with her father to head home. The Duke's mansion is now in utter chaos. The servants are gossiping about the girl they've never met. Among them, Lisa, the chrysanthemum-haired maid, has been appointed by the head maid to be the girl's personal attendant. Soon, father and his party arrived at the Duke's mansion. Seeing father carrying mother out of the carriage, and the girl silently following behind, Lisa's heart ached. From now on, I've made up my mind to take good care of the girl. Seeing Lisa's radiant smile, the girl is also quite uncomfortable. In her memory, whenever Lisa smiled, she would start looking for her mother. Over time, Lisa became withdrawn and taciturn. Looking back, it was all her fault. She tormented a perfectly good person like that. After freshening up, Lisa took the girl out to eat. Seeing the head chef's eager expression before her, he suddenly felt a pang of guilt. In his past life, he often used the excuse of being a man to throw away the meals the head chef had painstakingly prepared. But what weighed more heavily on his mind was the intense gaze of the maidservants. In his past life, because of his actions, because of his wickedness, the maids all avoided him. So now, receiving so much loving attention is really unbearable for him. Even Lisa wants to be with him forever. It's truly a sweet burden. But what he finds most unbelievable is the image of a father he sees in Lisa's eyes. I never imagined that Dad's heroic exploits searching for a wife all these years would become the male lead of Lisa's fantasy of a deeply loving husband. He also wished that the girl could find a good man like her father. To this, the girl could only chuckle. I'm afraid this vicious female supporting character is unworthy of such a man. Her father is the strongest, craziest emperor in history. He threatened the empress to help him resurrect his mother. He actually sent a severed head to the empress every day. The poor empress was not only driven mad by him, but ultimately killed by him. Based on what his father did, the extermination of their family would have been justified. But as his children, they were truly innocent. She clearly did nothing wrong, but still has to suffer the punishment with him. The thought of having to go through this again in this lifetime makes the girl feel like life has lost all meaning. And seeing him like this, Lisa clearly misunderstood something. She started rambling on about the various virtues of their family. At first, Lisa, newly entered into society, was terrified of maids. She had previously heard many stories of maids working in noble households dying mysteriously, but upon arriving at the Duke of Valois' household, she discovered that this wasn't the case. Firstly, the hours here were 9 to 5, and she could leave on time. Secondly, not only do we provide 3 meals a day, but each meal is delicious. We also have a dedicated rest room for the staff. Most importantly, there's also a long vacation. This place is simply a paradise that workers dream of. The girl felt embarrassed after hearing Lisa say this. Lisa never thought she could have such a happy life. It was all because her father, the master, was always away from home. In his past life, after he came here, he treated Lisa like a beast of burden. If it weren't for him finally breaking free from his character setting in this life, Lisa would probably have to continue her life as a beast of burden. But Lisa clearly didn't realize this. She was still asking him if, after hearing all this, he felt his family was amazing. So the girl could only perfunctorily reply, "Wow. Is that true? It's completely different from what I heard outside. Oh. I heard that our family heavily fines disobedient servants." Lisa was instantly angered by this. "Your Highness, you mustn't listen to those fools gossiping." The Valois family, with its outstanding swordsmanship, became one of the 4 great families, and they are also founding heroes of the empire. Most importantly, each direct heir has their own exclusive magic, a truly powerful existence. So, Lady Palace Attendant, you should be proud of your family. To see such a loyal Lisa, the girl instantly felt melancholic. What he said was indeed true. If Dad hadn't been so obsessed with bringing Mom back to life, perhaps their family wouldn't have been so easily destroyed. But is changing Dad really that easy? After all, his obsession with Mom had already reached the point of madness. And the Duke Bell, who had long resented his father, noticed this. He had always been jealous of the powerful magic possessed by the Valois family's direct lineage, and he had been eager to bring them down for a long time. So when he learned that his father hadn't held a funeral for his mother, but instead preserved her body using magic, he quickly conceived a vicious plan. She decided to use Mom to send Dad to hell. Meanwhile, guarding Mom's side, Dad was drinking again all night. The butler was used to this. He silently offered a glass of water. He informed Dad that the Duke Bell had arrived, but when he saw his mother on the bed, he still felt a sense of unease. To speak frankly, Your Grace, how long do you intend to keep your wife here? When Dad heard this, I was immediately unhappy. What did I do wrong by keeping my wife by my side? But soon he remembered that his mother loved sunshine and flowers most before her passing, so he decided to arrange for his mother to be in the courtyard. After a wash and dressing, Father hurried to see the Duke of Bell. Duke Bell was stunned seeing his father's still handsome face. He froze. Wasn't it said that this guy was always soaked in alcohol? How come his skin condition is still so good? Then Duke Bell immediately comforted his father. How have you been doing this period? I heard the Duchess passed away unfortunately. I wonder how the funeral arrangements are coming along. The dead cannot be brought back to life. You must be strong. Hearing this, Dad immediately turned ashen. Haven't I already said I'm not having a funeral? And are you deliberately trying to mock me? If that's the case, I don't mind letting your wife see your corpse. Seeing that my father's magical attack was about to strike, Duke Bell quickly pleaded for mercy. Please calm down. Your Grace, I'm here today to help you save your wife. But I have to ask beforehand, would you do anything for your wife? Faced with this question, Dad answered without hesitation, even if it means going to hell. He was also breathing. Duke Bell saw that he had taken the bait. He immediately offered his solution. It turned out he planned to trick his father into seeking out the legendary dark magician, then resurrect his mother by sacrificing a living person. Of course, his father wouldn't easily believe his nonsense now. But later, desperate, would his father take a desperate gamble for this slim chance? The world's reincarnation guide is a small, fat black bird, and it also told the girl, that only by using love to influence her father could she change the tragic ending. So, from then on, even knowing her father was, the girl would still run towards him without hesitation. Not long ago, the despicable Duke Bell tried to tempt father into seeking out a dark wizard. Although father didn't agree to him, he became even more obsessed with finding a way to resurrect mother. So, he didn't come home for several days in a row. Fortunately, the girl still had the servants by her side. The maids passionately put on puppet shows for her. But after experiencing so much, a girl who's been through life's trials is no longer interested in such things. However, seeing the maids' eager eyes, she still made a great effort to participate. After all, her current plan still needs their help. After careful consideration, the girl realized that changing her father wasn't going to be easy. So he made a contingency plan. That was to escape from here, to live a free life. But this required a significant amount of money, and he had to secretly transfer this money in advance. Therefore, he had to get the maid's help. This is the cream cake Lisa brought, the one she wanted to eat. But the girl unconsciously said she wanted cherry pie again. Only then did she realize her bad habit from her past life was triggered, because she always capriciously bothered Lisa like this. She almost drove Lisa crazy. If she were Lisa, I poisoned her a long time ago. Thinking of this, he quickly took the cream cake, and Lisa's spilled blood. In the future, I need to be even more careful and cautious. But the girl couldn't possibly imagine Lisa in this life. They are happier than in their past lives. Seeing him so glum today, they immediately reflected. Perhaps the girl doesn't like them constantly hovering around her. Therefore, they specifically devised a plan to give the girl some alone time. I wanted the girl to relax on her own, but it backfired. Instead, she felt more lonely than ever before. Seeing that no servant dared approach her these days, the girl couldn't help but cry. But then she remembered that no one would want to comfort a wicked woman. Then I slapped my cheeks hard, trying to hold back my tears. But just then, Lisa appeared from somewhere, grabbing my hand. Miss, no matter how sad you are, you mustn't hurt yourself. Immediately, a large group of maids rushed out to show concern for the girl. It completely stunned the girl. Only when Lisa announced the suspension of her solitary confinement plan in front of him, did he seem to realize something. He felt that they had been deliberately doing this all these days. But before he could think further, the doctor arrived. He gently pinched the girl's cheek, and concluded that she was fine. This angered Lisa. She insisted on examining her again, very carefully. Finally, after the doctor's repeated assurances, they believed the girl was alright. But the girl didn't expect that just patting his own cheek would cause all the servants in the manor to stop their work and come to see him. The sudden care made his face flush slightly. Then Lisa saw him. And again, she forced the doctor to give him a thorough examination, to save the poor doctor. The girl could only tell the truth. Unexpectedly, everyone cried after hearing it. It turned out that they all regretted not discovering the girl's loneliness earlier. To make up for it, Lisa immediately took out a white cat doll and gave it to her. The girl felt immense guilt remembering how she had taken apart her doll in her past life. She vowed then and there to cherish it in this life. After everyone left, she hugged the doll and fell fast asleep. But in the middle of the night, she heard a tapping at her window. She was startled by the sound. Just as she thought it was an assassin, and cautiously went to check, she discovered it was actually a small, fat, black bird that could talk. And upon meeting her, it revealed her identity as a reincarnated person. The girl examined it carefully, thinking it might be the legendary helper of reincarnated people. But before he could think further, Lisa grabbed the chubby bird. The girl didn't expect Lisa to be up so late and hiding in the dark, watching her. Seeing that Lisa was about to throw away the chubby bird, the girl panicked. She quickly explained that the chubby bird, just like her kitten toy, was her friend. This time, she invited little fatty bird to the secret party. Lisa felt a pang of guilt upon hearing this. She slammed into the nearby wall. She had to protect the girl's innocent heart. But she also really wanted to attend the girl's secret party. So she immediately said she would also wear an animal mask and hold a party with the girl in the future. Only after receiving the girl's permission did he leave happily. After Lisa left, the little chubby bird started complaining incessantly to the girl. Unable to bear being bothered, the girl took out her treasured strawberry cake to appease her. At first, the chubby bird scoffed. But soon, he dove into the cake. After finishing the cake, the chubby bird finally calmed down. He showed the girl the letter the god had written to him. It turned out that this rebirth was a gift from the god to the girl. He hoped the girl could use this opportunity to live the life she wanted. The first thing to do is change Dad's current state. The girl was completely baffled by the god's decree, but the little chubby bird had already taken flight. This left the girl feeling despondent. She didn't even get a chance to see Dad. How can I change him? To change Dad, the girl had to move out, leaving behind the memory of her deceased mother. Unexpectedly, this worked wonders on Dad. He not only ate dinner with her obediently, but also cleaned her plate. Even the head chef couldn't help but shed tears of excitement. He exclaimed that the Duke hadn't eaten so much in a long time. Sure enough, the lost love of his past is always the best medicine for the Duke's illness. That day, the girl was called up early by Lisa. She was also dressed very formally. It turned out that yesterday, the doctor secretly collected the girl's blood sample during the examination and conducted a paternity test. It has now been confirmed that the girl is of pure direct bloodline. And today, her father will return to confirm the results. That's why Lisa got up early to groom and dress her. However, the girl knows that all of this is in vain. After all, in her past life, she never had a meal with her father before she died. There were a few opportunities, though. In the end, they'll also be told he's not coming. But the servants firmly believe father will come. Especially this blue-haired man before them. He is father's aide, Agatha. And he also controls the Duke's finances. So the girl seized the opportunity to ask her aide when she could start receiving her allowance. Upon learning that she could start receiving the money next month, the girl's face lit up with joy. The Valois family's allowance was quite substantial, you know. She could buy a house in just 3 months of saving. Then she could leave at any time. Thinking about this, the girl let out a strange smile. Tu Suoguan saw the smile. It was exactly like her father's. He couldn't help but marvel at the power of genes. The girl was immediately embarrassed upon hearing this, but he quickly realized something was wrong. Why? The aide kept calling him kid. He felt offended, but the aide said he would call him by his name only when the girl grew up. He would use his name only then. Upon hearing this, the girl was furious. I immediately decided to call my aide baby from now on. Unexpectedly, my aide said that children and babies are the best partners. This absurd train of thought left the girl speechless. Sure enough, the people around the eccentric lord aren't quite normal. At this moment, an attendant rushed in. He handed a letter to the aide. After Su Zhouguan finished reading, he told him to open it directly. I knew without even thinking that Dad definitely wouldn't come this time. Sure enough, it's the same fate as in my past life. It's still too difficult to change Dad. But the girl never expected that a turning point in this life would occur after he woke up from his nap. When the girl woke from her sleep, she called out for Lisa as usual. But she found that Lisa, who was always on call, was not at her post. And the whole manor was suddenly deathly quiet. Not a single servant was waiting for her. After walking a short distance, she found Lisa, her face full of worry. Lisa became extremely nervous the moment she saw her. She immediately wanted to coax her back to continue her nap. But from a girl who has lived this long, judging from her life experience, things weren't that simple. Sure enough, the next second she heard the aide reporting to her father. So she immediately ran towards the source of the sound without hesitation. Along the way, the servants panicked and tried to flee. But his eyes were only on that dark figure. Finally, he embraced the figure. But when he slowly opened his eyes, he discovered that his body was covered in blood. He didn't know when it happened. And his father, like a demon returned from hell, stared at him silently. He was startled by his father's appearance, and involuntarily took a few steps back. Seeing him like that, his father immediately turned his back, urging him to leave quickly. But his hoarse voice made the girl realize something was wrong. Sure enough, the next second he saw his father's swollen eyes. Had he been crying? In his past life, he only knew his father as a man obsessed with resurrecting his mother. But he had never considered how heartbroken his father must have been after losing his one true love. How lonely he was. He just wanted his beloved to return to him. But during that time, he did many wrong things. He was misunderstood by the world. Thinking about this, he suddenly felt a pang of sympathy for his father. He, the doctor, would change him. So he quickly called out to his father, who was about to leave. Mom always said to eat on time. If you don't eat properly, he'll worry. After mentioning Mom, a gleam suddenly appeared in Dad's eyes. Then he hoisted the girl onto his shoulders. Have the head chef prepare the food. And so, without warning, the girl had her first meal with her dad. She deliberately ate very dramatically in front of her father, and told him that her mother liked people who ate well. Sure enough, this trick worked on her father. It's just that she seemed to find the bread troublesome to eat. He still wouldn't eat, so the girl had to use her ultimate weapon. Daddy, do you know how many people poured their hearts into getting this bread to the table? If you don't eat it, they'll all be very sad. And you have to eat it all up, okay? Otherwise, you'll be punished. Dad saw the girl's childish drawing. He was instantly stunned. Once upon a time, Mom had also scolded her like that at the dinner table. The mother and daughter's expressions were exactly alike. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but ask the girl how her mother scolded him for leaving leftover food. The girl could only tug at her cheek, showing how her mother scolded her. She felt her cheeks had been pulled thin by her mother. Then her father heard this. You ate that bread incredibly fast. Judging by the way you ate, your cheeks aren't going to slim down easily, so you should take your time eating the rest. Make sure you finish everything. After saying this, Dad left again at lightning speed, leaving the girl alone, flustered in the wind. Seriously, who eats so fast with someone else? After his wife passed away, he actually slept with her corpse every night. He lives in pain and regret all day long. Until this day, his long-neglected youngest daughter firmly stood before him, telling everyone that her father was not a strange person. The small figure unexpectedly touched the softest part of his heart. Just a short time ago, the girl had finally managed to have her first meal with her father. But Dad just quickly left. This made the girl very upset. At this rate, when will she finally be able to truly connect with her father? But let's leave Dad aside for now. His relationship with the servants unexpectedly progressed very smoothly. Lisa's change is the most obvious. She even took the initiative to arrange for him to use the secret script. Although their chatter was really loud, the girl inexplicably liked this feeling of everyone surrounding him. She unintentionally finished all the desserts she brought. Seeing this, Lisa and the others, he immediately decided to bring some more for the girl. As soon as they left, her father suddenly appeared. Seeing the girl all alone, he immediately planned to take her to eat. The girl was about to say that Lisa and the others would be back soon, but Dad said he would deal with it later, casually dropping his humorous remark. The girl was so scared that she desperately defended Lisa and the others, but Dad thought that she, like her mother, was too kind. In the end, the girl was forcibly taken by her father to eat. While eating, he suddenly thought of his colleagues, who, to change their lives, actively befriended the villains. Unexpectedly, it was very successful. After a fierce internal struggle, the girl decided to take a gamble. First, she acted cute to her father. The steak is delicious. And the strawberry cake is delicious too. Want to try some? Saying this, he directly picked up a piece of strawberry cake, and offered it to Dad's mouth with a full heart. But Dad just coldly said, "So what do you want me to do?" What a straight man's response. A hopeful little girl's heart just broke. Is it really that hard to just take a bite? She went to so much trouble recommending it. But no matter how hard she shook the cake in her hand, Dad remained unmoved. It seems she doesn't understand the meaning of sharing and enjoying food together at all. Could it be that in Dad's mind, eating is simply just eating? Thinking this, the girl disappointedly drooped her head. More than half of the cake on her fork fell to the ground. Seeing this, Father immediately ordered the servants to clean up quickly. Hearing this, the girl finally couldn't hold back. Why don't you understand? I gave you my favorite food, but you rejected me so cruelly. If so, we won't have to eat together anymore. Seeing the girl's aggrieved expression, Dad finally took the initiative to explain that it was because he cared about you, that he wanted to eat with you. Now it looks like we can't avoid eating the cake. Having said that, he ate the remaining bit of cake on the girl's fork in one bite. Then, he carefully asked if she wanted more. The girl immediately said that was enough. This significant breakthrough in his relationship with his father today made him extremely happy. He was so excited that he couldn't sleep last night. I snuck out to eat something, but I saw something that I'll never forget. The floor outside Dad's room was covered in shattered glass, and he was inside, covered in blood, crying his heart out. At that moment, the girl realized, the father, having lost his wife, was frail. The next day, the father suddenly developed a high fever, but he still resolutely prepared to go out. No matter how his aide and doctor tried to stop him, they couldn't. At this time, the aide thought that perhaps the girl could stop him, so he hurriedly found the girl. After learning the full story, even though she knew this might ruin the plot, the girl still chose to go with the aide. But when they met her father, the girl didn't get angry as the aide had expected. Instead, she wished him a safe journey. The assistant was very confused by this. The girl suddenly stepped in front of her father. Why are you stopping Dad from leaving? Dad is not a bad person. He just misses Mom so much, she said as she gently held her father's finger. But Dad, you must promise me to eat and sleep well, only with good health. Can we find a way to save Mom? Seeing the girl's face, so similar to his own, Dad suddenly felt his heart melt. This child, although having the same grandfather as him, behaved and spoke remarkably like his wife. Only then did he suddenly realize he wasn't the only one who lost his wife, and the children lost their mother too. Thinking about it carefully now, since taking the girl home, he has indeed changed quite a bit. Even when he encounters children his age outside, he will put down his murderous intent. Find a good family to adopt her. Perhaps the girl is truly the best gift his wife ever gave him. Such a tiny person. Yet she unknowingly influences his every word and action. After being berated by the maidservant as the worst father, the strongest peak in history, he fell into self-isolation and immediately took out child psychology books to study carefully. He was determined to become the ideal father figure. Not long ago, under the girl's persuasion, he finally stopped dragging his sick body out the door. Instead, he stayed at home, acting unusually obedient, and accompanied her for several days. The invisible barrier between father and daughter seemed to crumble that day. This brought great comfort to the servants in the manor. That day, the doctor came to give the girl a routine checkup. and he took out his specially formulated growth supplement and gave it to the girl, hoping the girl would grow up quickly and become a baby who would dominate the empire. The girl saw his exaggerated expression. She was completely dumbfounded, until she accidentally glanced at child psychology on the bookshelf. She seemed to understand. To avoid disappointing the doctor, the girl immediately cooperated and happily jumped twice. In an instant, the doctor was charmed and overjoyed. Just as the two of them were discussing passionately, the official suddenly rushed over to find him. Upon seeing him, he immediately knelt down with a thud, calling her little sister. You'll always be my sister. I'm truly grateful to you for stopping the Duke that day. To be honest, at first I resented you for not trying to keep the Duke. Until I heard what you said, I realized we had been ignoring the Duke's feelings. Seeing him like this, the girl immediately comforted him. Honey, you're also a very precious person to Dad. You've always been worried about him. When the assistant heard this, his eyes immediately welled up with tears like a child. I feel like I don't deserve to continue serving as the assistant. As soon as he said that, there was a shout from his father. Enough, stop it. What are you doing in front of the child? He mentioned Dad and picked up the girl, ready to go for lunch. Before leaving, he glanced at the kneeling aide. You're actually going to resign over such a trivial matter? How disappointing. Then I'll give you a few days off. He hadn't finished speaking when, before the aide could react, father had already left with the girl at lightning speed. The aide, reacting belatedly, immediately loudly responded to the Duke. I am willing to serve you for life. It was you who wouldn't let me resign. Don't go back on your word later. The aide's voice was so loud that almost everyone in the Duke's mansion heard it. He utterly embarrassed his father. Afterwards, the father and daughter went to the dining room for lunch. Suddenly, the father proactively suggested, I heard there's an alchemist in the city who practices resurrection magic, so he decided to go see him today. But I'll be back before dinner. Sure enough, I still can't easily dispel his obsession with resurrecting his mother. But it's a good thing that he can now proactively report his whereabouts. So the girl readily agreed. That night, he held a strawberry cake as usual, waiting eagerly at the window for the little fat bird to deliver the message. He didn't know how many days he'd been waiting. Could it be that there are too many reincarnated people needing help? Is he too busy? Just as he was about to give up, the chubby bird's urgent voice came, don't throw it away. Isn't that for me? After saying that, he dove straight into the cake. He saw the girl's face was covered in cream, but luckily, he had brought the god's instructions again. Otherwise, the girl would have pulled out all his black fur. This time, the god's instructions were to stop his father from going out again. Judging from these past few instructions, the deity wants him to change the original plot. But will that really work? Thinking this, the girl fell into deep thought. She didn't even hear the chubby bird calling. Angered, the chubby bird pecked her head hard. This brought her back to her senses. Suddenly, she seemed to remember something. With an eager expression, she looked at the plump bird and asked, can you help me relay a message? The plump bird replied that according to regulations, it couldn't. It also couldn't reveal any information about the sender. As soon as she heard this, the girl immediately voiced her thoughts in front of the chubby bird. This move left the chubby bird stunned. I've lived for hundreds of years, but this is the first time I've seen someone openly defy me like this. Then the girl heard this. Your face suddenly changed. What kind of talk is this? Communication is supposed to be two-way. Since I can't reply, I can only convey it through actions. Even supporting characters deserve to be advised, okay? And I just want to know the reason for my rebirth. And what's the point of all this? Is there anything wrong with this? I hope the letter writer will reply to me soon. The little fat bird was deceived by his stubbornness. The letter writer should know that if you continue like this, he'll want to eat you alive. Besides, wasn't what he wrote clear enough? Why don't you understand? The chubby bird's words deeply stung the girl. She couldn't help but shout angrily, I've lived 100 lifetimes like this, without knowing why. Every life was a villain's life. Do you know how hard it is to live these dark and hopeless days, my daughter? The chubby bird said it didn't want to hear any of it, so he just flapped his wings and left. The girl watched his figure disappear into the distance. She silently lowered her head. I just want to know a way to escape the current situation. That way, Dad wouldn't have to work so hard. Thinking of this, he shouted loudly in the direction the chubby bird flew off to, you bad bird. Remember to pay me back for the cake next time. I'm never treating you again. But as soon as he finished speaking, he awkwardly realized that his father had appeared behind him at some point. And so Lisa received a lecture from her father. He thought the girl's strange behavior of talking to birds was all Lisa's doing. And he had also left the young girl alone in the garden. Such an incompetent maid is simply terrible. Unexpectedly, these words provoked Lisa, and she and her father immediately started to lash out at each other. I admit I haven't done well enough, but Your Grace, you're not much better. You're drunk and unconscious every night, and you're never home. As a father, are you setting a good example? That's what you're saying. You're the worst dad too. The situation is getting worse by the minute. The girl was about to step in to stop them, but the aide blocked her. Then they witnessed something incredibly shocking. I didn't expect Dad to be so affected by Lisa's words. The illustrious demon duke was thus gloriously defeated by a mere little maid. Because of a girl's single request, Dad immediately reclaimed the Viscount's estate, making the 5-year-old girl a multimillionaire, swimming in money all day long. Not long ago, Dad was heartbroken by Lisa's historically worst dad comment. He fell into deep self-doubt. Even the girls couldn't stand it. He took his little short legs, and rushed to the two of them and scolded them. I said, "Why did you two say such hurtful things? Don't you understand that you're the people I love most? Lisa, you've already done enough. I still often feel that you're serving me too much." As a result, Lisa felt relieved after hearing this. "But miss, I want to take care of you for the rest of my life." Seeing that the situation was not good, the girl could only shift her target to her dad. "In my opinion, Dad is great too. He eats all 3 meals with me every day. I didn't expect that this would almost make Dad break down on the spot. All I can do for my daughter is just this." If the lady knew, she would surely be disappointed. Just as the girl didn't know how to comfort the two dejected ones, a guard suddenly rushed in, urgently protecting the treasure. "My lord, the Duke, if you're not busy, come to the dungeon quickly." Upon hearing this, the father grabbed the girl, then held her and rushed out. The girl was completely dumbfounded. "I don't understand why Dad suddenly brought him to this eerie place. Could it be that he hasn't recovered from the shock just now?" Then Dad covered the girl's eyes, and asked the guards to report what happened. It turned out that Lord Tsitsi, after being imprisoned and tortured in the dungeon for 4 months, was finally going insane. So he mercilessly beat Xian. This finally attracted the attention of the guards. The girl was extremely disgusted by his actions, especially after learning that the target was Xian. He was even more furious, and his father was also very angry. He clearly said he was going to arrange treatment for Xian. How could he have been sent to the underground prison? It wasn't until after the interrogation that we learned it was due to the guards' negligence. I remember father planned to punish them severely, but the girl knew that Xian was more important right now, so she immediately asked father to treat him first. After his son said, "My favorite thing about my dad is that he loves to help others," his father finally shook off his previous gloom, and cheered up. He immediately ordered someone to take Xian for treatment. After settling Xian, it was time to take care of himself. Thinking about how this guy used to bully his wife and daughter, he suddenly agreed with the girl's earlier statement, and planned to torture him slowly, starting with his fingers. The father and daughter were equally vicious. He almost pissed himself, but the girl knew that just killing him would be too easy, so she quickly called out to her father. Just as the guards thought the girl found the killing too cruel, and couldn't bear it, the next moment, her words left them dumbfounded. "If he dies, what will happen to the property? He still owes me a lot of money. I cleaned their floors for them. I cleaned the toilets and ironed their clothes. I took out the trash. I did so much work. He hasn't paid me a single cent. Not a penny." After hearing the girl's drawing, the father's face grew darker and darker. He immediately ordered his aide to transfer all of the Viscount's property to the girl's name. A month later, the Viscount's territories were gradually replaced with the black jeweled banners representing the Duke's family. This undoubtedly announced to everyone the Viscount's death, and after the Countess received the news, she could only quickly flee. He had long advised his unlucky husband not to underestimate a fallen countess, but he wouldn't listen. Now, look what happened. They were completely wiped out. If their black market dealings were discovered, punishment would be unavoidable, so he had to flee before the Duke's people arrived. Just as he was frantically busy, a man in black showed up looking for Xian's slave records. Seeing the file snatched away by him, the Marchioness actually breathed a sigh of relief. After all, that file was also a hot potato for him. And soon, the news of the Duke of Valois reclaiming the Viscount's estate spread to other families. Upon hearing that her father had given all of the Viscount's property to the 5-year-old girl, the heads of the families couldn't hold back. But because of Dad's strong personality, they dared not speak their minds. For now, they can only wait until Dad attends the regular meeting to confirm the truth of the matter. But the problem is that madman. Because his wife ran away from home, he hasn't attended a meeting in 5 years. Now he's busy resurrecting his wife. "It feels like I won't be able to participate this year either." Duke Bell, standing beside him, grew increasingly angry. He couldn't stand that everyone was paying so much attention to such a precarious family, so he immediately volunteered, saying he would go and confirm it himself. For a moment, he became the savior of everyone in the hall. Meanwhile, the man in black showed the seized slave documents to a woman. The woman said she wasn't in a position to receive them at the moment, so she asked the man in black to keep them. Then she asked the man in black if he had any new intelligence. The man in black immediately stated that he'd heard that his father's recent unusual behavior was all related to the girl. He said he could handle it any time if needed, but the woman told him to wait and see. He was very curious about Xian's subsequent behavior. After Xian was sent for treatment, he entered a long recovery period. This greatly relieved the girl. He didn't want to lose his first friend like that. Then Lisa suddenly came over carrying a large burlap sack. She asked him if he was ready. The girl saw the bag in his hand, and became instantly excited. She immediately told him to bring it on. So then Lisa started throwing money around. And the girl happily swam in the sea of money, unable to extricate herself. Now everything is heading in the right direction. Maybe she'll be able to raise enough money to leave soon. But perhaps I could also prevent her father from meeting the queen. Or stop her from wanting the queen's divine lord of power. Wouldn't that allow them to live happily as a family? Just as the girl fell into thought, she was suddenly awakened by Lisa and her aide. Lisa, shyly addressing the little finger, asked, "Miss, do you think the White Cat King doll I gave you is better, or the money?" Although she knew saying money would make Lisa sad. But the girl didn't want to lie. So she could only awkwardly say she preferred money. The aide beside her, hearing this, suddenly became eager. "Then, between me and the money-loving girl, which do you prefer?" Seeing his enthusiastic manner, the girl bluntly said she preferred money. At this time, Dad suddenly joined the questioning. "So, which do you like more, Dad or money?" Under the pressure of blood ties, the girl said without hesitation that she liked Dad more. But Dad poked her little nose and said she was wrong. "Little fool, you should have guessed both." To prevent her father from completely turning evil, the girl should have stopped him from going to the islands to meet the queen, but he left secretly without a word. This caused the girl's plan to fail before it even began. Fortunately, there are still 14 years until the family's extermination. In these 14 years, I have to find a solution, no matter what. Just recently, the father-daughter relationship between the father and the girl finally made great progress, and the father's change made the girl start to waver. She even started to think about giving up on escaping from here. She attempted to change her father to let their family live a happy life, but he was still somewhat hesitant between the two choices. So he had a dream where he had a meeting with his inner demons. But his ponytail self insisted that they should respect the original work. After all, they were professional supporting characters. Not arbitrarily interfering with the plot's development is basic professional ethics. But his twin-tailed self felt that the single-tailed self's opinion was too rigid. This unexpected rebirth is clearly a chance given by God. Besides, if it really was a mistake on their part, they wouldn't have left it for a full 5 months without any punishment. They even sent a little fat bird to deliver a message and offer guidance. And could the girl from the future really leave everything here behind and walk away so freely? Could she really bear to watch the value of family be destroyed again? The girl immediately retorted. At those words. Then, the girl with the single ponytail also felt that the girl with the double ponytails made a lot of sense. So the three of them immediately agreed. They decided to stay and protect everyone. The feather that truly and completely blackened the father's heart was encountering the queen with divine power in the archipelago. So the girl decided to stop her father from going to the islands no matter what. But at that moment, the girl didn't realize. While he was dreaming and holding a meeting in his sleep, her father was already fully prepared to leave for the islands. Before leaving, he especially came to see the girl. Seeing her small hand tightly gripping his large hand, unwilling to let go, his heart suddenly softened beyond measure. He even wanted to take the girl away with him. If it weren't for the guards repeatedly emphasizing the extremely harsh environment of the archipelago, he might really have done such a crazy thing. In the end, he reluctantly prepared to set off to find the island. Before leaving the house, he instructed his aide to take good care of the girl during this time, barring any unforeseen circumstances. He would be back in 3 weeks. Then he left without looking back. The next day, the girl, finally having a clear goal in mind, woke up full of energy. Upon seeing Lisa, she immediately threw herself into her embrace. "Lisa, although you can be a bit naggy at times, you are also an important family member to me. I will protect you well from now on." When Lisa heard the girl consider her family, she was so moved, tears filled her eyes. She immediately gave the girl a big hug. "I almost strangled him." Then, on my way to breakfast, every servant in the manor greeted the girl warmly, making her feel even happier. This protagonist-like life is just too amazing. I even specially went to the garden to pick some beautiful flowers. I had put it in the vase, ready to give it to Dad. But when he arrived at the restaurant, he saw the aide looking worn out. Seeing the girl's concern, the aide explained that he just hadn't rested well last night. To his surprise, when the girl heard this, she immediately comforted him, saying everything would get better. For the first time, I received guidance from a 5-year-old child. It deeply moved my aide, but soon he worried about how to explain his father's absence to the girl. Sure enough, the next second, the girl, who was preparing for breakfast, asked about her father's feelings. Upon learning that he not only went to the islands, but also won't be back for 3 weeks, the girl almost fell apart. He had only just promised his sisters yesterday that he would stop his father from going to the islands. The plan was stillborn before it could even be implemented. This was undoubtedly a huge blow to him, so he fainted dramatically on the spot. Lisa and the others were so scared that they immediately called for a doctor. Just as he was hating his father, that bastard, for leaving without a word. The doctor said he was fine. He just needed a few days rest. He was so angry he called the doctor a quack. Doctor, you don't understand at all. This is a psychological illness. You let me down so much. The doctor, upon hearing this, immediately questioned everything. And the girl, from that day on, ignored everyone for several days. No matter how much you tried to persuade her, it was useless. But perhaps time truly is the best medicine for healing emotional wounds. It's the 4th day. The girl has completely calmed down. She even started showing off her strawberry cake. After all, she thought carefully, they haven't truly reached a dead end yet. There are still 14 full years until her family is wiped out. He didn't believe he couldn't find a solution in these 14 years. Then he suddenly heard the maids chatting at the door. They were happy that he was finally willing to eat. They were even monitoring his every move in a perverse way. Suddenly, a maid cautiously asked Lisa if she needed to report Xian's situation to the girl, although she spoke very softly. But the girl caught it immediately, so she immediately pushed open the door, asking how Xian was, and she asked Lisa to quickly take her to see Xian. Xian, unconscious for so long, finally woke up, but he was surprised to find the little girl who once shared his suffering had transformed into the jewel of the Devil Duke's palm. And she was surprisingly kind to him. Not long ago, the girl learned of Xian's whereabouts from the maids. She immediately asked Lisa to take her to see Xian. However, judging from the maid's previous reports, Xian doesn't seem to be doing well. This made him rather worried. When he arrived at Xian's room, the maids looked at him as if he were a savior, immediately asking him to help persuade Xian. When the girl saw the situation firsthand, only then did I understand what happened. It turned out that Xian, after waking up, refused to eat anything. No matter how kindly the maids tried to persuade him, he wouldn't listen, and if he didn't eat, he wouldn't be able to recover quickly. This gave the maids a terrible headache. Suddenly, a maidservant noticed the girl peeking at the door. She immediately curtsied to him, and when Xian heard the girl's name, his eyes instantly lit up. Is it really you? The girl saw Xian like this. He smiled helplessly. That's right, now that I'm here, you need to eat properly. And the patient, you can't keep standing. Sit down quickly. But Xian refused this request. He looked at him with a serious expression. I know you're a slave, just like me. You weren't brought here by that lunatic, were you? At this point, Xian's wound suddenly started to hurt. The pain was so intense, he almost couldn't stand. But he still held the girl's shoulders tightly. Tell him to run. You need to get out of here. The owner of this place is a notorious devil. Although she knew her boss was in trouble outside, Qinger heard from Xian. I still feel offended. But the girl didn't intend to hide this from Xian. So she immediately sent the maids away. Seeing the maid's respectful attitude towards him, Xian seemed to realize something. So you're the princess of the Valois dukedom. Why is it you? Seeing Xian like that forlorn expression, the girl's right. I am indeed the mistress of this place. I specifically asked my father to treat you. And between the two of us, there's no need to mention the mirror. Do whatever feels comfortable. But no matter how the girl tried to persuade him, Xian insisted on talking to him through the mirror. The girl was so angry she wanted to have it out with him. But Xian unhesitatingly avoided her outstretched hand. Could it be because she's his father's daughter? So you hate him? For example, those rich young ladies from his past life who pretended to befriend him. They actually never wanted to be friends with him. They were just forced to interact with him because of their social status. And the first friend he made in this life is actually just like them. Thinking of this, he didn't make things difficult for Xian. Instead, he had Lisa prepare some food and bring it in. He insisted that Xian must finish the meal before receiving treatment. But Xian felt he couldn't afford such a lavish meal. The girl reassured him that they wouldn't charge him anything. After the treatment, Xian could leave any time. Right now, he just hopes Xian will take good care of his health. Seeing the girl's eager expression, Xian finally agreed to eat. It's just that he didn't want to eat expensive steak. He only wanted some wheat bread. The girl didn't expect him to be so difficult. I can only helplessly say, if Xian doesn't eat it, then he'll just have to throw away the 3 gold coin steak. After all, nobody wants to eat a slave's leftovers. Upon hearing that the steak cost 3 gold coins, Xian was indeed swayed. But he had another embarrassing problem. He didn't know how to eat a steak. The girl was surprised he didn't even know that. So she immediately speared a piece of beef with her fork, and opened Xian's mouth. At first, Xian was reluctant. Alas, the girl is too enthusiastic. He could only resign himself to letting her question him. After successfully getting Xian to eat the steak, the girl was also very relieved. Immediately extend your pinky, and make a pact with Xian. Afterward, you have to promise me that when it's just the two of us, no honorifics will be used to change the tragic fate of our family. A 5-year-old girl decided to secretly destroy important documents in the middle of the night. However, she was betrayed by her own maid, with whom she spent every day. The advisor caught her red-handed. Not long ago, after the girl's comfort, Zion finally agreed to eat properly. It's just that she seems to have a particular fondness for chocolate croissants. Every time he eats, he asks the maid for one. The girl was shocked when she heard Lisa say this. She couldn't believe it. He actually remembered the first kind thing he did since his rebirth, giving Zian a croissant. And it has stayed on his mind ever since. Could it be that he's been poisoned by the croissant? Why does he have to eat this every meal? If I had known this, I should have given him something else to eat. But he looked so frail and weak. It seemed like he would faint if he didn't eat anything. So he had no choice but to use the croissant as an emergency measure. Seeing the girl's troubled expression, Lisa immediately suggested they go see Zian later. The girl, thinking of Zian's sensitive nature, decided against it. She probably needed some alone time to accept reality. But Zian's reaction yesterday was rather strange. Normally, if someone knows the other person is a noble, they wouldn't dare look them in the eye. But when she learned he was a palace maid, he was clearly stunned for a moment. He even asked with a forlorn expression why it had to be him. He didn't seem afraid of nobles at all. Why is that? Or was he overthinking it? Actually, she just has psychological trauma related to nobles. Just as he was lost in thought, a sudden clap of thunder crashed outside the window. Then it started to rain. A torrential downpour. Then Lisa pulled him into her arms. Oh no, our palace maid must be terrified. Don't be afraid, I'm right here with you. Seeing Lisa so affectionate, the girl could only feel hopeless. But this rainy day made her recall events from her past life. The next second, she saw the advisor's figure through the crack in the door. The upheaval in her family in her past life began with the advisor. So in this life, although she couldn't stop her father, she must prevent the impending disaster facing her family. So she made a pact with Lisa. At 2 a.m., he had the deputy adjutant sent away. Then, he took the opportunity to quietly slip into the office to handle some documents. As a result, because of his child's body, he almost overslept. But fortunately, he understood the seriousness of the situation. In the end, he managed to pull himself together. Suddenly, the paper mouse Lisa left started to move. This was the signal he and Lisa had agreed upon. The moving paper mouse meant it was time to act. So the girl immediately and quietly slipped to the office door. She saw that it was indeed empty. The girl couldn't help but admire Lisa's efficiency. If the plan goes smoothly, she'll have to reward Lisa properly afterwards. So she smoothly entered the office. Only when taking out the files from the drawer did an accident happen. Because the files were too heavy, she lost her balance and they all scattered on the floor. Even though I've made a mess of things, I still need to find the file quickly. After a search, the girl finally found the proposal concerning the severing of Doro Kingdom's funding. 2 years ago, Doro Kingdom fought a war with the Empire over territory. At that time, the Valois family represented the Empire in battle. Father won decisively. Later, the Doro Kingdom became a vassal state of the Empire. They even sent the half-blood Prince Peter as a hostage. But not long after, the Doro Kingdom suddenly lost contact. The Valois family believed they should cut off the Doro Kingdom's funding. It was precisely because of this incident that their family incurred Peter's hatred. In the distant future, after Peter became the emperor, he directly targeted the Valois family, thus causing the family's downfall. Thinking about this, the girl immediately wanted to tear up this damn proposal. Then, the next second, the aide appeared behind her, almost scaring the living daylights out of her. Luckily, she reacted quickly. He immediately shouted for the guards, but he saw Lisa rushing over. Could the aide's sudden appearance be because of Lisa? But shouldn't Lisa be on his side? To this, the aide explained that they were actually all on the girl's side. Just as adults, they have a duty to properly educate and guide the girl. The girl heard his nonsense. She couldn't help but bite him hard. Then she urgently wanted to hear what Lisa really thought. Lisa's answer, however, was the same as the deputy officer's. This instantly saddened the girl. Even you are abandoning Mom, Lisa. Lisa, hearing this, suddenly felt a pang of guilt. Then, leaving a hasty, "I'm sorry," she ran off. Will the mistress and maid be able to reconcile? A girl fights to save her family. Night raid on the office, intending to shred the important proposal. But she was caught red-handed by her aide. Fortunately, she didn't severely reprimand the girl. Instead, she seriously analyzed the pros and cons with her. A short time ago, the girl was about to successfully shred the proposal. In the end, it all fell apart because Lisa reported her actions. This made her extremely angry. But with the body of a 5-year-old, she simply couldn't fight against the assistant officer. So she had no choice but to surrender. Seeing her pitiful state, the assistant officer immediately began to patiently comfort her. I don't remember you as such a fragile child. Is there a particular reason? You absolutely have to tear up the proposal? The girl heard the aide's words, and unconsciously clutched her skirt. Although she really wanted to tell the aide, the half-blooded prince of Doro Kingdom, now brought here as a hostage, will become the emperor of the empire in the future. But obviously, he can't just spoil it. Otherwise, it would directly lead to the collapse of the entire plot. seeing his troubled look. His advisor thought he simply wanted to play with paper. I'm sorry to say. He immediately pulled out a brand new sheet of white paper from his drawer and gave it to him. The girl, seeing her aide's thoughtfulness, immediately felt immense guilt. After all, he's someone who has experienced 90 different kinds of life. Why does he still act like such a childish person? The fleeing official noticed his sudden low spirits. He immediately presented the proposal again. Don't be sad. If you don't want to play with paper, then which word on it do you dislike? The girl was furious when she saw the proposal. He immediately pointed out a passage. The aide was shocked. He hadn't expected the girl to be unhappy about their family cutting off funding to the Doro Kingdom. Seeing the aide's look of disbelief, the girl felt helpless. She guessed he probably thought she was being unreasonable. Unexpectedly, the aide's next words rekindled his hope. Why didn't you tell me earlier? The girl, upon hearing this, immediately asked, asking what difference it would make. The aide replied that the regular meetings would still proceed as scheduled, but he will let everyone know that this is opposed by the direct citizens of Valua, and the girl will take the opportunity to attend this meeting. But I'm afraid the heads of families present will raise questions. How will the girl cope then? After listening to the aide's words, the girl felt ashamed and overwhelmed. If he can't give the heads of the families a reasonable explanation, he'll likely be seen as making a fuss for no reason. Then he'll be labeled a wicked woman again, and face certain death. It seems his actions were too rash this time. The aide saw that he finally understood the secret. I immediately comforted him, saying that all sorts of things happen during the growing up process, but as long as he admits his mistakes and corrects them, he's still a good boy. He was just curious how the girl knew about the proposal. The girl sensed something was wrong. She was about to play dumb. The assistant said that he and Lisa had devised such a meticulous plan, as if he had known about the proposal for a long time. Could the girl actually be the legendary prophet? The girl was completely stunned by his ridiculous theory. In the next moment, she decided to play along with his guess. She quickly earned the assistant's utmost admiration. Seeing such a gullible aide, the girl couldn't help but worry about the future of the family. After last night's heart-to-heart with the aide, the girl deeply realized her mistake. She apologized to the guards and maids on duty last night one by one. Soon, however, she noticed that the crowd of onlookers was growing larger. After some observation, he saw him enthusiastically calling the servants over to watch him apologize. The deputy official was so angry that he told him to shut up immediately. At this moment, he suddenly caught sight of Xian peeking at him from a distance. Could it be that he saw him apologizing to the servants just now? He slowly lowered his guard. Thinking of this, he immediately asked his aide to continue making him apologize. The aide replied that he'd had enough of this. Besides, there was no audience now. It was a bit boring, so he temporarily withdrew. The girl, seeing him like this, immediately flew into a rage. As a result, that appearance scared Xian away too. Now the girl was completely unable to explain herself. The girl had finally found a chance to get closer to Xian, but it was ruined by the aide. And it made him look like a fool in front of Xian. Just a short while ago, the girl lost her temper after being tricked by the aide. She couldn't help but get angry. Unexpectedly, Xian witnessed the whole thing. He was so scared that he ran away. The girl hurried to explain, quickly chasing after him. But Xian ran unusually fast, so the girl took off her small leather shoes, and ran towards Xian with all her might. Xian, wait. Listen to me. It was all a misunderstanding. So please, let's talk this over properly. People were baffled by the sight of you chasing each other, completely bewildered. The knights even wanted to help the girl catch Xian. The girl quickly refused. Tell them to stay out of this. Finally, he was about to catch up to Xian, but remembering Xian's dislike of his touch before, he immediately stopped. He decided to treat Xian gently instead. So the girl immediately yelled at Xian, Xian, may I hold your hand? You're not saying anything. I'll take your silence as agreement. Saying this, the girl grabbed Xian's hand. Got you. Let's have a good talk. Before Xian could reply, the girl tripped over her socks. Strangely, the expected pain didn't come, but instead, she landed in a warm embrace. Seeing Xian on the ground, groaning in pain, the girl hurriedly struggled to get up. But Xian suddenly spoke and asked, if I hadn't stopped you from touching me earlier, would you really not have grabbed my hand? The girl heard this and smiled in relief. Of course. I just wanted to clear up the misunderstanding. Who would have thought that when Xian saw his smile, his expression suddenly changed? I was wrong. I should have made it clear. I should have rejected him, so don't ever make that strange expression again. That kind of expression doesn't suit the Varya family at all. The girl's mood suddenly dropped after hearing that. Her mood suddenly plummeted. Sure enough, Xian really hated their family. But what exactly was the reason for his hatred? Her father had never done anything to him. It shouldn't be this way. Just as he was about to properly question Xian, he was lifted up by his aide. So you were here. This brat is so annoying. Again, his aide ruined his plans. Being seen like this by Xian is incredibly embarrassing. Especially seeing Xian staring at him so intently, made the girl feel even more ashamed. At this time, Lisa and the others also came over. Hearing that the girl had tripped and fallen because of her socks, Lisa immediately stepped forward to pull off the girl's socks. It was the attendant beside her who finally helped her up. Compared to the socks, the girl is more important now. This is what stopped Lisa's actions. Then the assistant prepared to carry the girl to the infirmary. Before leaving, the girl reminded Xian, "Later, you'll be sent for treatment too. And I'm not usually like this. I'll go see you after a while. You must wait for me." Knowing that, after the girl saw the doctor and returned to her room, she couldn't help but furiously pound the pillow. All thanks to that hateful aide interrupting him. He just wants to get closer to Xian. Why is it so difficult? But judging from Xian's behavior today, is it because he's from the Valois family, that he dislikes him? If that's the reason, this won't be easy to resolve. Thinking about this, the girl suddenly lost her sleepiness. She turned to find Lisa and started having a late-night snack. After enjoying the delicious strawberry cake, she felt like she had come back to life. However, she hadn't forgotten to ask Lisa for help. "Lisa, so making friends is tiring for you?" Lisa thought deeply after hearing this. If you, palace maid, want friends, you can join high society. That way, many people will be eager to be your friend. But a girl who has lived a lifetime knows. Those were nothing but insincere friendships. But one thing still bothered him. Is it possible for a palace maid and a slave to become good friends? Lisa was stumped by this question. As far as he knew, such a situation only appeared in romantic novels. As a result, his words went straight to the girl's heart. After all, this world isn't just a fictional world to him. Suddenly, it seemed like he remembered something. He rushed to the bookshelf and took out a red book. Then he excitedly begged Lisa to lend it to him. Lisa was shocked when she saw the cover. But in the end, he couldn't refuse the girl. He could only nod in agreement. To get closer to Xian, the girl took the initiative to invite him to lunch. But she almost did more harm than good. Not long ago, the girl tried to salvage her image in front of Xian. He found Lisa and asked for her help. During that time, he noticed a book on Lisa's bookshelf. He immediately begged Lisa to lend it to him. Lisa was shocked when she saw the title. She immediately pulled out a children's book and gave it to the girl. "Your Highness, compared to this one, I think this one would be more interesting. It's the story of the Lion Princess and the Rabbit Baron overcoming their differences in status. I think this book will help you more." So the next day, the girl who got the book insisted on having the aide read it to her. To her surprise, he was immediately captivated by the story, especially hearing that the Lion Princess was willing to be a vegetarian for the rest of her life for her beloved Rabbit Baron, coupled with the aide's vivid description, suddenly enlightened him. The protagonists in this story were practically a mirror image of himself and Xian. If he could also be like the Lion Princess, Xian, lower himself and integrate into her life, wouldn't it be quick to find peace with him, too? Thinking this, he immediately got up and bid farewell to his aide. "Goodbye, my dear. I'm going to eat some grass. After all, I am a lion." Before the assistant could react, the girl had already dashed off, leaving Su Zogwen alone, bewildered in the wind. He still wanted to tell her that when a lion eats grass, it gets indigestion. But at that moment, the girl had no interest in hearing his lecture, because he had already rushed towards Xian's room. He happened to bump into Xian's maidservant. Hearing that the girl wanted to find Xian, the maidservant immediately wanted to call Xian out for him. The girl refused her help. She secretly peeked at Xian through the crack in the door. He was quietly staring out the window. Sunlight illuminated his youthful face. One could faintly discern increasingly refined facial features. I always felt that with Xian's looks, he shouldn't be a simple slave character. Just as the girl fell into thought, Xian found her. "What are you doing here? How have you been these days?" Being so rudely dragged away by the servants that day, even my socks were ripped off. It's better that she doesn't mention it. Just mentioning girls is incredibly painful. "I'm fine. After all, I was in the wrong that day." Xian, hearing this, pressed him again about the reason for his apology that day. But after a moment, he realized that the two of them weren't that close. He awkwardly turned his face away. The girl couldn't stand his indecisive behavior any longer. "Actually, I apologized to everyone that day, because I wanted to destroy the family's classified documents. And then the next day I caused such a commotion with you, who were a slave. Perhaps I was born a reckless person." Hearing the girl so confidently say that, it was Enro who was struck by lightning and caused the mischief. She had never seen such a shameless person before. But the girl didn't care about it at all. Instead, she enthusiastically invited her to have lunch together. Xian stared blankly at the girl with a bright smile. "Are you sure it's okay to continue interacting with me? Won't the Duke scold you? You'll become a bad child." The girl, upon hearing this, grabbed him tightly. "Listen carefully. Xian being scolded and becoming a bad child are different things. Even if I do it this way, it doesn't necessarily mean he'll become a bad child. So don't worry about that. Let's have lunch together. After hearing the girl's words, Xian's face suddenly turned bright red. This was the first time someone had said that to him. Sure enough, girls are such strange people. During lunch, the girl, in order to carry out her plan, specifically chose the same whole wheat bread as Xian. It turned out to be really, incredibly awful. Thankfully, I finished eating in Xian. So he immediately ordered someone to bring dessert. Just as Lisa thought he would eat his favorite strawberry cake, the girl unexpectedly requested the royal family's signature dessert. Lisa was shocked at these words, quickly asking if the girl must also prepare a portion for Xian. After all, it's simply outrageous to let a slave eat such high-class desserts. But the girl didn't allow Lisa to interrupt her plan. So, ultimately unable to refuse the girl, Lisa could only prepare 2 desserts. Xian, this isn't because I wanted to eat them. I'm doing this to better understand Mr. Rabbit. So let's all enjoy it together. Before Xian could figure out what Mr. Rabbit was, he noticed the trick on the pastry the girl was about to eat. So he immediately tried to get up and stop her. But as soon as he moved, he was surrounded by knights. Everyone even raised their swords at him. The girl's aide guarded her closely, while viciously addressing Xian, saying, "It seems the master hasn't ordered you to stand." Because of the girl's promise to protect him, Xian, who had never known affection, was deeply moved. He even began to harbor the thought of being with her forever. Just a short while ago, because the girl was about to eat the chocolate by mistake, Xian, anxious to save her, got up without permission to stop her, only to be misunderstood by the knights as rebelling. But actually, the reason Xian stopped the girl from eating the chocolate was because of the girl's earlier well-intentioned lie. It turned out that during their first meeting, the girl lied about being allergic to chocolate so Xian would feel less pressured to accept the chocolate croissant. She never expected that casual lie would be remembered by Xian, and it even caused her to be attacked by his knights. This made the girl feel incredibly guilty. She felt terrible. That's right, thanks to Xian. Otherwise, would have almost lost my life. So everyone, please put down your weapons. And besides, Xian was a child before becoming a slave. He is a being that deserves protection. Although the knights were puzzled by the girl's chocolate allergy, they silently sheathed their swords. Then they roughly threw Xian away. La harshly warned him not to act so rashly again. Actually, Xian himself didn't understand why he had acted instinctively like that. He seemed to subconsciously not want the girl to be harmed. At this moment, the purple necklace that Xian always carried with him suddenly vibrated. It was the woman who had bought him for 5,000 gold coins back then, calling him. Although he really didn't want to talk to her, he couldn't raise her suspicion. So, the next second, he silently answered her call. When the woman asked him how he was doing at the Valua families, he said nothing special was happening there, and that they needed to continue observing. At that point, he suddenly remembered the girl's words, and couldn't help but ask the woman if it was true that children were beings who deserved protection. The other party simply asked him coldly, does he also hope to be treated like that? Hearing this, Jian quickly apologized. The woman gestured for him not to be alarmed, and asked where he had heard that phrase. Upon learning that she was a palace maid from the Varua family, the woman felt puzzled. Wasn't it rumored that the palace maids were placed in a separate villa? She never expected them to live in the duke's mansion as well. Moreover, she could clearly sense from Xian's tone that he had a strong liking for the girl. So the woman decided to take advantage of this regular meeting, while saving Xian. He also took the girl away. Xian was overjoyed. Upon hearing this, if he could be with the girl forever, he thought he would be very happy, but he doesn't know that the girl has already become suspicious of his identity. As a slave, how could he possibly know what filling is in such an expensive pastry? Moreover, his refined mannerisms clash sharply with his supposed status as a slave. So, what is his true identity? Thinking of this, the girl decided to ask the aide for an investigation. But as soon as she entered the room, she saw the aide lifelessly slumped over the desk. Startled, the girl immediately wanted to call a doctor. Fortunately, the aide stopped her in time. It turned out that over the past few days, since her father had been away, he wants David to handle more work. So it's even harder than usual. Seeing the serious dark circles under the aide's eyes, the girl couldn't bear to ask him for more help. Instead, she told him to get some rest and prepared to leave. But then the aide called out to her, "My dear prophet baby, regarding the regular meetings, I want to have a good talk with you. First, I must confirm whether you truly possess the ability of prophecy, before allowing you to attend the regular meetings." The girl, upon hearing this, I suddenly became very nervous. It seems the aide has received my father's permission to hold regular meetings. In other words, his decisions now affect the future of their family. Very well, then bring it on. And then, the aide posed the first question. May I ask who my future wife will be? The girl, upon hearing this, immediately broke out in a cold sweat. She strongly suspected that this guy was abusing his power for personal gain. Seriously, he's not a fortune teller. How could I possibly know who his wife is? If that's the case, I need to teach this guy a lesson. Thinking this, the girl pretended to act. Ah, I saw our baby's future wife. Sure Dee wondered why it was a man. So our precious baby will have a wise and valiant husband in the future. What delightful news. Zhu Guan was struck by lightning upon hearing this. He wished he could die right then and there. Serves him right. Who made him ask such a bizarre question? Just as the girl was about to leave, Zhu Guan grabbed her ankle tightly again. I'm sorry, my lady. I was just joking. Now, to the main point. May I ask when your two older brothers will be coming back? The girl froze immediately upon hearing this. Clearly, this question was very advantageous for the assistant officer. After all, he knew the schedules of everyone in the Valoya family like the back of his hand. But in terms of understanding, how could he compare to someone who had been reborn? So he immediately told the aide. My brothers were originally supposed to return in a year, but due to some unforeseen circumstances, they will be back in a month, and the academy will likely send word in about a week. He found the girl's explanation logical and convincing. The advisor was momentarily flustered. Seeing the advisor's reaction, the girl revealed another prophecy. That is, a week later, Lisa would go out carrying 2 swords. The advisor was clearly rather skeptical, but the girl was confident. He believed that once the aide learned the prophecy was true, he would wholeheartedly follow him. But seeing the girl lying on the grass, Xian wept with guilt. Because he felt that he was responsible for her condition. Little did they know, the girl just wanted to take a nap there. It almost turned into a big misunderstanding. A short while ago, the girl proactively told the aide about some things that would happen in the future. She frankly admitted that she could only foresee events up to her 19th birthday. This only piqued the aide's curiosity even more. What kind of future does he know? But the girl wasn't willing to tell the truth. After all, that terrifying future was a nightmare for him too. The aide saw the girl's serious expression. His heart tightened, coupled with his previous frantic attempts to shred the documents. The assistant suddenly had an epiphany. Could it be that the Valoya family is facing some major crisis? And you still can't see what happens after the age of 19? Is that why you're so eager to change the future? The girl saw that the assistant finally understood her good intentions. She immediately invited him to join the family defense battle. And in the first part of the family defense war, the girl devoured 3 strawberry cakes. Just as she was about to eat a 4th, Lisa finally snapped. She angrily questioned her aide, why did you let the palace maid behave so recklessly? If this continues, the body will suffer. Unexpectedly, the assistant casually told Lisa that there is a reason why the girl is doing this. And the girl also said that eating more strawberry cake won't kill her. Seeing them in such harmony, Lisa was quite irritated. She ran out without looking back. The girl watched Lisa leave, feeling utterly helpless. Actually, the reason the aide obeys him so implicitly is that his previous predictions have all come true. Although the prediction about Lisa was a fabricated old story, fortunately, the aide didn't suspect anything. It's just that being an aide isn't always easy. After Lisa left, he formally asked the girl, eat more strawberry cake. It's truly for the good of the family. The girl had already thought of her words. Of course, darling. I am a maid of the Valoya family. My happiness is the happiness of the family. The aide, upon hearing this, fell into thought. I snatched his 4th strawberry cake. Since you've eaten so many strawberry cakes for the happiness of the Valois family, you should brush your teeth more for the Valois family's health. Seeing him like that, the girl immediately wanted to take back the strawberry cake. I understand. I'll brush my teeth after I finish this. But the aide-de-camp wouldn't give him a chance. Sister Xiaohui, I believe in your precognitive abilities, but that doesn't mean I'll willingly be a sucker. Besides, the Duke recently sent word back, ordering me to ensure your safety and assist you, so, please cooperate fully. So the girl was practically carried to the bathroom by the aide to brush her teeth. As soon as she finished brushing her teeth, he ran to the courtyard, and found the aide to be utterly detestable. He had cruelly separated him from his beloved pastries. He and Lisa are equally matched. Forget it. He doesn't want to bother with them now. He'll take advantage of the nice weather. He'll take a nap on the lawn. Just as he was about to fall asleep, Xian discovered him lying on the ground. Then he rushed to his side. Palace maid, why are you lying here? Are you feeling unwell? To avoid unnecessary misunderstandings, the girl didn't want to respond. Instead, she made Xian think more. Could it be my fault? Could it be because I was scolded for eating with a slave like me? Is that why this is happening? I'm sorry, it's all my fault. Xian couldn't help but softly weep with guilt. Seeing the situation getting worse and worse, the girl immediately began to play. No, Xian, stop crying. I'm just the result. The girl hadn't finished speaking when Xian tightly embraced her. I'm really sorry. You were scolded because of me, weren't you? Did you get hurt? This was the first time the girl had seen Xian so emotionally agitated. Looking at it now, he's temporarily unable to listen to any explanation, so the girl could only silently comfort him, until Xian calmed down. Only then could they finally communicate properly. Xian, are you okay? But why were you crying just now? I thought something had happened to you. Actually, I just wanted to take a nap. Why take a nap on the lawn? No particular reason. I just suddenly felt like doing it. Hearing the girl's casual response, Xian completely lost it. Even if that's how I sleep. It's too dangerous outside. The girl, hearing Xian's nagging, suddenly felt irritated. She'd already heard enough lectures today. She's clearly a palace made of the Valua family. I can live as I please, can't I? Why do they all have to control her so much? Thinking about this, she couldn't help but lose her temper with Xian. I'm in my own home. I can do whatever I want. What's it to you? Until she saw Xian's hurt expression, the girl realized she had unconsciously revealed her wicked nature again. But just as he was about to explain properly, Xian was preparing to leave. Anyway, just go back to your room and sleep. Stop worrying me. The girl felt she couldn't just let him go so easily. She immediately grabbed him. I'm sorry, Xian. That's not what I meant. I really know I was wrong. Can you calm down? I didn't expect Xian to agree so easily. I can forgive you. But can you guarantee you won't do it again next time? The girl was overjoyed at these words. She immediately held out her pinky finger. Of course, I promise I won't worry Xian again. After the pinky swear, the two finally reconciled. To prevent Xian from feeling guilty, the girl proactively suggested that he stay and work at the Duke's mansion, to repay him for saving her life. Unexpectedly, just as the two were happily seeking Officer Fu's consent, they were met with his merciless refusal. Shortly after the girl successfully reconciled with Xian, she asked him why he came to the garden. It turned out he had come specifically to see her, because he felt he owed her a great deal. The girl not only saved his life, but also kept him fed and clothed, so he felt he should find a way to repay her. But he couldn't find an opportunity to do so. When the girl heard this, she immediately invited him to work at their house. This way, he can both make money, and be with him every day. But he's a little worried whether the advisor will agree. Of course, he doesn't necessarily insist that Xian do it. Then, Xian suddenly looked conflicted. Can I trust the Valoya family? The girl understands. Xian is no ordinary slave, and he seems to have always resented the Valoya family. But he hopes Xian will believe him. He has always been proud of his family. Not only did he lead the knights to victory in the war, he also has countless followers among his vassals. Most importantly, he has his father, the greatest ruler under heaven, leading everything. So Xian has absolutely nothing to worry about, and no matter what choice he makes, they will always remain friends. Xian suddenly asked the girl if he could earn 5,000 gold coins working here. The girl smiled and told him, of course. Actually, from this moment on, Xian had the idea of redeeming her. He wanted to be with the girl forever. Of course, things weren't as smooth as he'd imagined. This matter was strongly opposed by the aide. Seeing the aide's unyielding attitude, the girl decided to use her ultimate weapon. He forcefully widened his eyes, and coquettishly said to the aide, but since we've brought Xian home, we should be responsible for him. So please, darling, I beg you, please agree. The aide, exasperated by her persistence, could only say he would report this to her father first. Hearing this, the girl thought it was a sure thing. Xian and I celebrated happily. But then Officer 2 poured cold water on our celebration. I never said this was permitted. And first, let's send him away. I think we need to have a serious talk. Ultimately, the girl reluctantly let Xian return to his room to wait for her. Xian had just left, when his aide spoke with a gloomy face. Kid sister, are you joking? Is this a prophecy too? Seeing his expression, the girl hurriedly explained, Xian is a friend not mentioned in my prophecy. This is just a destined encounter. The aide heard this, speechless. Forget about any destined encounter. We need to seriously discuss the matter of the regular meetings. First of all, the heads of families won't easily believe the prophet's words. We need to think of another way. A defeated nation suddenly losing contact already implies rebellion. In this situation, I really don't know how I can protect his aid funds. But you said to withdraw the funds. The Valua family will be wiped out. The girl nodded in agreement after hearing that. She nodded in agreement. That was indeed the truth. Actually, all they had to do was not to provoke the half-blood prince, Peter. Just as the girl was about to express her other thoughts, Lisa suddenly rushed over. Let's report then. Mr. Aide, there's an emergency. Upon receiving the news, the aide was forced to interrupt his conversation with the girl, because he now has to receive the Duke of Bell. Hearing the name Duke of Bell, the girl felt a sudden pang in her heart. The Duke of Bell was originally from a branch of their Valois family. Later, through wicked means, he rose to become one of the 4 great families. The Duke of Bell has always been extremely jealous of their family's powerful abilities. He obsessively imitated everything about their family, but he lacked the ability to replace them. A knock came suddenly at the door. Thinking it was her aide returning, the girl immediately ran to open it. Unexpectedly, a small girl with blue hair, clutching a rabbit doll, darted out from the doorway. Seeing her, the little girl seemed very excited. "Oh my God, Daddy, I finally found her. Lady-in-waiting. This is the first time I've met you in person. You're exactly as I heard, black hair and purple eyes. It's amazing." The girl felt inexplicably annoyed by his stare. She immediately gave him a domineering wallbang, asking him why he was here. "Don't you know it's very rude to show up uninvited?" The little girl, upon hearing this, immediately burst into tears. "I'm sorry, my father asked me to find you. I thought it was okay." Seeing him like this, the girl felt utterly helpless. This guy's still as much of a crybaby as he was in his past life. So the little girl is Bella, the Duke of Bell's youngest daughter. This guy was constantly compared to his older brother by his father since he was little, because he couldn't use magic. He was often laughed at, though he seems a bit dim-witted. But in the future, he became the youngest chief magician. Now that I think about it, he must have been forced into it by his dad. He really shouldn't have snapped at him. But seeing those uncontrollable tears, he really worries that this guy might pass out from dehydration. To calm his emotions, the girl immediately invited him to enjoy some delicious cake. As soon as Bella heard there was cake, she stopped crying. But as soon as the daughter was touched by the little yellow-haired boy, the demon duke couldn't sit still. The treasure she holds in her hands is not something anyone can covet. Not long ago, Bella, the daughter of the Duke of Bell, suddenly barged into the girl's room, and she was scared to tears by the girl. To comfort her, the girl could only invite her to eat cake together. And the power of the strawberry cake was indeed great. Bella calmed down after just a few bites. His mood stabilized. Seeing him finally calm down, the girl asked him to explain his purpose. Then, the next second, Bella excitedly inquired about his age, and the life she had before returning to the Duke's mansion. The girl thought Bella was just an innocent little kid now, so she casually made up a story. "I'm 5 years old this year. Before returning to the Duke's mansion, I lived with a wealthy family in a free country." She hadn't even finished speaking when Bella stared at her with a sinister look. "You're lying. You were clearly a self-proclaimed slave at home before the age of 5. I've investigated this thoroughly. You big liar." The girl didn't expect the Duke of Bell to tell Bella these things. What Bella did next really opened her eyes. He first gave the girl a strange smile and said, "If I were as pathetic as you, would Dad pay more attention to me?" After saying that, he threw the rabbit plush toy he was holding at the girl. Before the girl could react, he started crying loudly. The next second, Duke Bell rushed in hurriedly. Then, the two of them put on a touching father-daughter act in front of the girl. At this point, the girl could no longer be unaware of what was going on. She had originally thought Bella was just an innocent and kind child, but in reality, she was just as bad as her father. Thinking of this, he thrust the rabbit doll at me. "Explain yourself." As if I didn't already have a white cat plushie. "I've been misunderstood. I don't want your black rabbit. You two barged into my room without my permission. And you dare slander me? The bandits are here. Get these two insolent fools out of here immediately." Seeing the girl like this, Duke Bell wanted to reprimand her, but the next second, night stormed in. Fortunately, the aide arrived in time. Only then did we avoid a major conflict. The Duke of Bell, seeing his aide, regained some of his composure. "Bagusha, you came just in time. I think the lady-in-waiting has been a slave for too long. That's why she's so ill-mannered. You should strengthen your discipline." The aide heard this, glanced at the girl. "Duke Bell, you're right." Seeing that the aide was also siding with the father and daughter, the girl, immediately, he hung his head in dejection. But the next second, the aide took the rabbit king from his hand. "But I think you still don't quite understand the Valois family. On the Valois family's territory, the master is the absolute king. So even if the palace lady really did something to your daughter, you have no right to interfere." Having said that, the aide handed over the rabbit doll. Duke Bell was so angry he was speechless. Then, the aide calmly said, "If you insist on arguing, I'll just write a letter and call the Duke back. I think he'd be happy to speak with you himself." At the mention of father, the Duke of Bell instantly cowered. He immediately snatched the rabbit king, then dragged Bella away in a panic. Thanks to the aide's presence, this sudden situation was resolved smoothly. It also made the girl realize the importance of her father at home. Thinking about this, he suddenly had a good idea on how to handle the aid funds from the Doro Kingdom. After the aide had finished everything and returned to his room, he found a letter his father had sent back. 80% of the letter was praising the girl. The aide was utterly speechless at his father's extreme doting on his daughter, but as he expected, his father intended to skip the regular meeting again this time. Thinking about the commotion today, the aide still decided to report it to his father. After all, the man still worried about his precious daughter, and thinking of the girl's strong and independent appearance just now, the aide secretly felt that he might really be able to change the fate of the Valois family, but he didn't know that. His father almost went crazy after receiving his report. Let alone the Duke Bell secretly bullying his daughter while he was away. What bothered him most was that the little blonde he picked up dared to covet his daughter. For a doting father, This is absolutely unacceptable. So the father immediately decided not to meet the empress, who had been waiting for it so many days, but instead, to act unexpectedly. He would see how he could properly deal with that little punk who dared to hold his daughter's hand. For the sake of the family's revival, the girl decided to stop being lazy. This was also the first time she demonstrated her powerful abilities in front of the Ponzi family. In the blink of an eye, the day of the regular meeting arrived. That day, she was hurrying to the meeting room. Suddenly, Lisa anxiously brought her the documents she had forgotten from behind. At that moment, the aide also happened to come and pick her up. She had the girl check carefully once again to make sure nothing was forgotten. She also praised the girl for looking very capable in her outfit today. Of course, all of this was thanks to the help of the maid sisters, along with the pendant representing the Valoya family and the Black Panther-shaped hair tie, as well as that face that closely resembled the Duke's. Anyone could immediately recognize that the girl was a maid of the Valoya family. Then, the aide carefully checked the documents in the girl's hand. The girl's documents. Although he would convey the girl's opinions at the regular meetings, to show that she was interested in the meetings. The aide had specially prepared research materials for her in advance. Now the girl just needs to take these materials to the meeting room and answer the retainer's questions properly when the time comes. Just try to leave a good impression. The girl clearly didn't expect the retainers to ask her questions, but the advisor reassured her not to worry. After all, this was also the girl's first meeting with the retainers. Naturally, they would have many questions. As a result, the girl heard this. He fell to the ground with a thud. His whole body trembled uncontrollably. He hadn't expected to lose his nerve before the regular meeting even began. He completely chickened out. It was incredibly embarrassing. The next second, his aide extended a hand towards him. Don't worry, little sister. What the vassals want is not a cold-blooded House Valois, but a House Valois that longs for the revival of the family. I believe everyone will like you. The girl felt relieved after hearing the advisor's words. She immediately felt at ease. He immediately took his aide's hand and went to the conference room. And because the girl was the first to arrive, he still couldn't help but feel nervous. But he still tried his best to calm himself down. In his impression, those retainers were all good people. But because their leader is Dad, that madman, his retainers have suffered greatly all along. Wherever they go, they face criticism. So much so that after the family's eventual downfall, besides the Duke of Bell, who had always coveted their family's possessions, all the other retainers quickly distanced themselves from the Valois family. This is what truly created the Valois family's women. And now, his task is to protect the family. In this way, he and his retainers are like-minded allies. I only hope his sincerity can reach them. At this time, Viscount Candace was the first to enter. Upon seeing that his father wasn't there, he was extremely disappointed. He then glanced indifferently at the girl, and passed her by as if he hadn't seen her. He hurried past her. Then the other retainers entered one after another. She continuously muttered her displeasure about her father's absence from the meeting. Then they started voting on their own, intending to quickly end this meaningless meeting. Seeing them unanimously pass the proposal to cut off aid to the Doro Kingdom, the girl could no longer sit still. He held a blue rejection chip. He slammed the bracelet. Please withdraw your proposal. On behalf of the Valois family, I object to cutting off aid to the Doro Kingdom. Thinking about how she had just been scared and nervous because of those bastards, the girl felt annoyed. Candy and those retainers never truly cared about the family. Then, the girl's gaze fell upon Viscount Candace. Viscount Candace's appearance closely resembled that of a direct descendant of the Valois family. Furthermore, he was once the youngest head of the family in the Empire's history. And the reason he became the youngest head of the family was because of his exceptional alchemy skills. She recalled the rumors about him from her past life. The girl immediately asked him about the recent progress of his weapons business. Viscount Candace was startled. He hadn't expected a girl so young to know about such things. His aide was also surprised. He quickly whispered a question. Jay, why did you ask him such a private question? The girl whispered to the advisor. Because he wanted to rekindle the vassals' fighting spirit to revive the family. The advisor expressed his strong approval. Unexpectedly, however, Viscount Candace took the initiative in the competition, and reported his recent punishment to the girl. He was just curious. When did a girl, only 5 years old, begin to pay attention to these things? The girl held up 4 fingers to him, looking innocent and naive. She said it probably started when she was 4. After all, I could already read and write by the age of 4. I, through the help of a calligrapher, learned about the Valois family situation through newspapers. So, everyone, feel free to speak your mind. Let's work together to revive our family. That is the true meaning of this regular meeting. To properly teach the blonde-haired father who tried to kidnap his daughter. He even sacrificed the chance to meet the Empress, rushing home. But the moment he truly saw his girl, he understood that nothing in the world mattered more than the little one in his arms. Just a short while ago, because of the girl's excellent performance at the regular meeting, she gained the vassal's approval. Just as he was about to restart the meeting, Marquis Trevelyan proposed expanding their family's transport business to the southern region, which would make their trade with the Free States more convenient. Upon hearing this proposal, the girl sensed something was wrong. After all, he had planned to flee and settle in Liberland. Tandy sensed the girl's predicament. He immediately urged the Marquis of Thwerland to return to the main topic. The purpose of their meeting today was to decide whether to withdraw aid from the Doro Kingdom, self-evaporation, or, since then, evaporation. The vassal spoke first, suggesting that it should be recalled. As a defeated nation, how dare we act unilaterally to form an alliance? Isn't this the same as plotting a rebellion? The red-haired vassal expressed agreement, believing that the Valoya family should take the lead in this matter. Seeing the retainers so lively, the advisor couldn't help but look at the girl with new eyes. At this moment, Lisa and a servant rushed in. The servant whispered a few words to the advisor. The advisor's expression immediately turned serious. Then he carefully leaned in to whisper to the girl. He informed the manor that an assassin had entered, and instructed the girl to stay here, until the threat was resolved. Afterward, the assistant official reassured the household servants. Then, he let them resume the meeting. Meanwhile, Xian obediently finished all the food. Since being lectured by the girl before, he has almost always finished his food completely. This greatly pleased the maidservant. He instructed Xian, "Today is the day of the regular meeting. Don't go wandering around aimlessly if you have nothing to do." Xian, however, was more concerned about whether the girl would attend the meeting. The maid initially hesitated to answer, but upon seeing Xian's cold gaze, she honestly gave an affirmative reply. After receiving the answer, Xian silently turned his head away. After the maidservant left, she took out the necklace used to contact her master. Thinking about how her master had specifically instructed her to bring the necklace to the Valois family's regular meeting, it was clear he intended to act during the meeting. I wonder what he'll do to the girl. My master has always hated the Valois family. Perhaps he will torment the girl terribly. With that thought, Xian could no longer sit still. Before meeting the girl, he had always lived in hell. Now, he had helped her escape from suffering. He couldn't bear to watch him be taken away by the master. So this time, he would protect the girl. Meanwhile, in the conference room, anxiety reigned. Although the assistant tried his best to reassure them, the retainers still felt uneasy. The girl is also affected by the tense atmosphere. She can't help but miss her father. The aide notices the girl's change in behavior. He immediately hands her the prepared investigation materials. "Your Highness, could you personally convey your opinion? If it's you speaking, everyone will listen carefully." The girl understood his intention. She accepted the important task with a serious expression. She, a direct descendant of the Varuya family, a palace made of high standing, how could she be disturbed by mere assassins? He immediately declared loudly to everyone that he opposed withdrawing the aid funds for the kingdom of Daluo. And just as he had expected, someone quickly raised a question. But the girl was not at all flustered by this. Instead, she chose to slowly guide them. First, the Valois family, as heroes of the war, will inevitably take over the Doro Kingdom. In other words, the people of the Doro Kingdom will become citizens of the Valois family from now on. If we withdraw the aid funds, their resentment and revenge will be directed at the Valois family. Of course, on this point, my vassals don't currently agree. They believe that with the Valois family's strength, the rebellion can be easily quelled. The girl, hearing this, immediately expressed her agreement. "What you're saying does make some sense. Actually, I could agree to withdraw the aid funds, but I don't think the Valois family needs to be the first to step forward. How about we first spread the rumor to the Duke of Bell family that the Valois family is about to withdraw the aid funds? After all, the Duke of Bell family is one of the 4 major families now. They also have some influence. We just need to wait and see what happens. This plan is clearly very reliable. It's just that the retainers are quite curious. Why specifically choose the Duke of Bell's family?" The girl responds that it's because he doesn't believe the Duke of Bell is still an ally. After all, a family that's always focused on imitating and replacing others. How could one be loyal to someone they're imitating? If he were the head of the household, he would definitely find a way to go out and sabotage things. Speaking of which, the girl directly tossed out a red chip, showing her stance. After he pushed out his chips, the conference room suddenly fell silent. Just as the girl thought she had done something wrong, the Jiechen family members suddenly showered her with lavish praise for her intelligence and wisdom, even expressing their hope that she would quickly grow up and manage the family. The girl hadn't expected this. He simply used a little trick to win the favor of the Jiechen. It's a blessing in disguise, I guess. After all, it's all thanks to the villainous mindset ingrained in him. When in trouble, as long as he finds a suitable scapegoat, he can easily get away. Although this method is a bit despicable, it's for the protection of the family. And Duke Bell wasn't a good person to begin with, so this bit of underhandedness is nothing. Then Lisa suddenly rushed in and reported the assassin's news to the aide. Unexpectedly, the assassin inexplicably answered. Just as the girl was shocked, the conference room's glass was suddenly shattered. The frightened aide quickly hugged the girl. The next second, a familiar figure appeared at the door. Dad, with a murderous look on his face, asked, "Where's that damn blonde?" Seeing a room full of panicked people, Dad finally realized his behavior might be inappropriate. But he still asked the aide, in a self-righteous tone, "Why are you holding the girl?" The aide was so frightened that he quickly let go of the girl. The girl, seeing the trouble her father had caused, felt an instant headache. She immediately began to scold her father. "Why did you leave without a word before? If you do this again, I'll never speak to you again." Faced with the girl's incessant muttering, father simply offered a faint smile. His previous burning anger vanished the instant he saw this little one. This sight completely stunned his retainers. Was this doting father truly their merciless devil duke who wouldn't bat an eye at killing? A lady-in-waiting of the Manhwa family was nearly attacked by an assassin. Luckily, Dad made it home in time. And through this incident, he finally understood the girl's position in his heart. He decided to completely let go of his deceased wife, and to spend the rest of his life protecting the girl. Just a short while ago, Dad suddenly, he appeared at the regular meeting with a murderous look on his face. He nearly scared everyone to death. But Dad's eyes and heart were completely focused on his precious daughter. He didn't care what others thought at all. "By the way, sweetie, I heard you've made a new friend recently." Hearing Dad mention Xian, the girl excitedly began to introduce it to him. "Yes, Dad, Xian was my first friend. He was a boy with blonde hair, dark eyes, and fair skin, delicate, like a porcelain doll." Seeing my precious daughter praise Xian so highly, the purple aura around Dad is getting even stronger. "Really? Hearing you say that, I'm a little curious too. Why don't we go see him now?" The girl heard this. I immediately jumped down from Dad's arms. "Then let's quickly go to the treatment room on the 4th floor and find Xian. It's just that I originally planned to wait until Dad came back, and then make Xian my servant." Dad heard this, and his fists clenched tighter. The aide standing nearby sensed something was wrong. Seeing that the father and daughter were about to go find Xian, the aide suddenly remembered something. He quickly chased after them. "My Lord Duke, you still have important matters to attend to." Luckily, the aide successfully stopped father, and brought him to examine the assassin's body. Aide Lu stated, from the moment they learned of the assassin's appearance. While waiting for the knights to find the assassin, he had already answered. Father lifted the white cloth. He carefully examined the assassin's wounds. The wounds didn't look particularly deep. They seemed to be cuts from a dagger or something similar. Suddenly, father noticed something unusual. That wound seemed unusually clean. It's like cutting paper with scissors. He seems to have been killed by an aura ability user. It seems things are getting complicated. Aura is a sharp skill that only those who are proficient in swordsmanship can master. He also possesses characteristics that prevent him from becoming other abilities and imagination itself. Therefore, no matter how outstanding magic or divine power one possesses, no one dares to easily approach Aurelian ability users. However, all Aurelian ability users are registered with the Empire. We can investigate them one by one according to the list. In addition, we also need to investigate the activity range of Aurelian ability users. Pang's help is also needed, especially around the area where the assassin died. Looking again at the assassin's corpse, father's expression grew grave. If it was an Aurelian ability user who infiltrated Valua, then the girl attending the regular meeting was indeed in grave danger. If the Aurelian ability user's target was the girl, not the assassin, then he would likely have lost his precious daughter. It was like losing a beloved wife. Then she fell into deep self-reproach again. At the thought of it, she wanted to kill her past self. Why was she so obsessed with someone who was already dead, and ignored the living? He really was a terrible father. Finally, he made a certain decision. He even proactively asked his aide to arrange his mother's funeral. Meanwhile, a maid pushed a dinner cart to find Xian. Unexpectedly, the room was empty, and the window was open. Frightened, he hurriedly ran to tell Xian about the escape. But what he didn't know was that at this moment, Xian was painfully lying in a pool of blood. Pain was consuming his brain, causing him to unconsciously fall into a coma. During his slumber, he seemed to have returned to his 5th birthday. That day, he was injured for the first time during training. He dragged his bloody arm and cried to his master. "It hurts so much. Please help me." Unexpectedly, his master coldly refused him. "Why did you come to me looking like this? Go to the infirmary for a bandage and disinfection immediately. You must clean up before coming to see me again." Thick blood slowly dripped down from Xian's hand, just like Xian's shattered heart. Later, Xian obediently bandaged the wound before going to see the master. The master, seeing him in this state, touched his head with relief, but Xian couldn't bring himself to be happy. And after that, Xian never cried out in pain again, because he knew that crying wouldn't change anything. Since he was 5 years old, he realized this. To prevent the girl from being harmed by the assassin, Xian even went so far as to single-handedly deal with the assassin, ending up badly injured. He thought no one would care whether he lived or died this time either. but I didn't expect the girl to cry her eyes out for her. Zion, who was near death a short while ago, was found and rescued in time. When she woke up again, she was already in a room. She also felt a sharp pain in her right arm. The girl beside her saw her wake up. Immediately, I loudly questioned you. Exactly how were you injured? Did you deal with the assassin yourself? Do you know how worried I was when I heard you were found collapsed in the grass? Why were you so reckless? Seeing the girl's worried expression, she felt uneasy and guilty. But she couldn't tell the truth. She could only stammer and tell the girl that she had encountered the assassin by chance. The girl scoffed, then you should have come to me for help first. Shion, hearing this, suddenly thought of her master. It was clearly the same situation. The master only told her not to look for her. Unexpectedly, the girl understood her so well. This warmed Shian's heart. It's okay, miss. After treatment, I don't feel pain anymore. The girl heard his reply, crying even harder. You always say it's okay. I can't do anything for you. Why do you always lie? Like when we had steak before. You clearly knew how to eat it but pretended you didn't. I like you so much, yet you always hide things from me. It's so disheartening. I'll ask you one last time. Do you really care about she? I hope you'll answer honestly. Shion watched the little girl who was so heartbroken for her. She seemed to have made up her mind. Immediately, she hugged her arms and cried, her eyes full of tears. Actually, I really hurt. My arm hurts, and my shoulder hurts too. The girl heard these words. She immediately hugged Shion, feeling heartbroken. It's okay now. Shion, if it hurts in the future, just speak up. After they calmed down, the girl handed Shion the healing potion. Shion silently took the potion. Then, he once again called the girl seriously. Actually, I like you too. The girl heard this, and froze on the spot. Then her face instantly flushed red. So the liking you're talking about is the kind of liking between friends, right? Hearing this, Zian obediently agreed without understanding. The girl finally relaxed. Then Shion suddenly thought of something. He asked the girl if her previous promise to take responsibility for him still stood. Hearing the girl's assurance, Shion cautiously asked if he could stay by her side forever. The girl, upon hearing this, he immediately expressed his affirmation. Shion was so moved that she was in tears. She immediately drank the healing potion in one gulp. Only then did the girl remember the damned assassin. When Xian heard that the girl had found out the assassin might be from the Doro kingdom, her heart suddenly sank. He quickly asked the girl if he was from the Doro kingdom. Would he hate him? The girl was startled by this. Then she smiled and patted Shion on the shoulder, saying, if they were as kind as Shion, I wouldn't hate them. After that, the girl prepared to leave. Before leaving, Shion didn't forget to remind him not to break his promise. The girl was very unhappy about this. Does he really look like someone who would break his word? But thinking about it carefully, this 100th life, he has still made many changes. Not only did I solve the original funding issue for the Doro kingdom, but I also prevented my father and the queen from meeting. This way, Prince Peter will have no reason to resent the Valois family in the future. However, what Xian just said still bothers him. Xian is not the type to make jokes. Why mention that he's from the Dororo kingdom? Does he have some untold secret? The demon duke, who had been solely focused on resurrecting his wife, finally came to his senses. He decided to give his wife a proper burial, and to move forward. After the incident the girl almost lost the imperial seal. It made him understand that perhaps everything was destined. His wife's passing had made him lose the will to live. But his little angel gave him the motivation to live on. Not long ago, he adventured in Xi'an and dealt with an assassin who almost harmed the girl. But he accidentally ended up covered in wounds. And during her visit, the girl sharply picked up on something odd. It was Xian's offhand remark about what would happen if he were from the Doro kingdom. Thinking about it carefully, Xian and Peter, the Doro kingdom half-prince she knew in her past life, really did look incredibly alike. The only difference was their eye color. And Xian's seemingly offhand joke made the girl even more curious about his true identity. Just as the girl was lost in thought, she was suddenly called back to reality by her retainers. It turned out that the girl's serious expression a moment ago had caused her retainers to exclaim involuntarily. The father and daughter really seem to be cut from the same mold. As long as they're both there, the Valois family is unstoppable. The girl heard this and glanced quietly at her dad beside her. Sure enough, this guy couldn't resist those flattering words. The corners of my mouth turned up uncontrollably. That smug look was completely unlike my usual self. However, Dad's return did put the girl at ease. So I decided to stop agonizing over Zion and Peter, and instead prepare to properly end this regular meeting. At this moment, Dad suddenly remembered the suggestion the girl had made at the regular meeting. Upon hearing this, the girl immediately stated her desire to postpone the cancellation of the aid funds for the Doro kingdom. After saying this, she didn't forget to ask Dad for praise. Seeing her cute little expression, Dad touched her head with relief. Our baby is amazing. He also considered the long-term development of the family. After speaking, father's eyes coldly glanced at his retainers. So, what are your thoughts on this? The retainers quickly responded. Since the result is the same as before, they had no objections, so they decided to wait for other families to take the initiative before complying. After resolving this matter, father further stated that he would no longer miss the regular meetings, and he planned to restore things to their state 5 years ago as soon as possible. Therefore, he hoped that his retainers would cooperate fully with him from then on. Everyone was shocked by these words, especially girls. Having lived a past life, he knows how deeply his father was obsessed with his mother. Even after the queen, who was a saint, died, he actively sought death from Peter. And now, doing this is equivalent to admitting his mother's death. This makes him inevitably worry about his father. But this time, he saw a determination to protect him in those muddled eyes. In other words, this life, Dad changed because of him. Although this is something to be happy about, it still made the girl's heart ache involuntarily. Dad's change undoubtedly brings a perfect ending, but the pain of losing Mom can never be easily healed. At this moment, light rain suddenly began to fall from the sky. Then, Dad, who had hurriedly arrived, covered her with his cloak. When he saw the girl had no umbrella, Dad didn't hesitate to take off his cloak. He wrapped the girl tightly. Seeing her father get himself wet to protect her, the girl felt an immense warmth in her heart. In her 2 lifetimes, this was the first time she experienced what paternal love was. Afterwards, her father took her to the depths of the garden. There, he saw his long-lost mother. His father hadn't planned a funeral for his mother in his previous life. So, ever since he returned home from the Ziju mansion, he hadn't seen his mother again. He never imagined his father had protected his mother so well. And this time, Dad also took the initiative to admit his mistake. I'm sorry, my dear. I'm so sorry I brought you to see Mom so late. In the past, I tried my best to save him. I gave it my all. But actually, he had already seen Dad's hesitant expression. The girl felt heartbroken. She quickly pulled his hand. They talked about the past. Dad, didn't you always kiss Mom's forehead before bed every night? And didn't he always nag you about not being picky with your food? Broccoli, indeed. As soon as Dad hears the word broccoli, he shows a look of resistance. They really are just like typical women. To avoid continuing the unpleasant topic of broccoli, the girl asked about her parents' dating experiences. So it turns out Dad fell for Mom at first sight after she heroically saved him. He fell for her instantly. After that, they talked a lot more about Mom. They talked until late at night. The girl was really exhausted. Before bed, he advised Dad not to scare Mom away too quickly, until he can smile freely in front of his mother. Then we'll properly send him off. After saying these words, the girl couldn't help but lean on her father and fall fast asleep. And her words were silently noted in her father's heart. Gently putting his arm around the girl's shoulders, he was incredibly grateful to his wife for leaving him such a heartwarming little angel. The next day, the father and daughter, for the first time, asked the head chef to make them a broccoli feast. They also asked the aide to prepare them some black tea. This sudden change left the aide and head chef completely baffled. So father and daughter wanted to commemorate their mother this way. After all, when she was alive, Mom loved seeing them eat broccoli. And black tea was also Mom's favorite. Thinking about it, Dad has only been focused on saving Mom this whole time. So this time, Dad decided to postpone the funeral, to properly commemorate Mom. Father and daughter had clearly overestimated their tolerance for broccoli. By the time the aide brought over the brewed black tea, he found the father and daughter sprawled out together. The renowned value of family nearly met its demise because of a little broccoli. After successfully changing her father's mind, the girl decided to summon her chubby bird, whom she hadn't seen in a while. To make up for it, he not only prepared a luxurious strawberry cake, but also handwrote, "I'm sorry," 100 times. After all, the little chubby bird hasn't come to see him for 2 whole months, ever since he tore up the letter and they had their falling out. Before the fallout, the bird used to visit every 2 weeks. This made the girl feel strangely uneasy. Right now, I just hope to see him again. He definitely won't be so willful in the future. But I didn't expect him to wait for a whole hour. He still didn't see the little chubby bird. He was so angry that he immediately decided to give up and go to sleep. Just then, he heard a familiar cooing sound. He quickly discovered the chubby boy lying on the table, barely alive. The girl, startled, quickly scooped him up and examined him carefully. It turned out that this guy, even when injured, didn't forget to eat cake. He even fully recovered after wolfing down a whole cake. This immediately made the girl feel ashamed, but he also didn't forget to apologize to her. Fortunately, little fatty bird had long since stopped holding a grudge. Upon hearing him say this, the girl immediately asked about his whereabouts during that period of time. What he didn't expect was that the reason little fatty bird hadn't come to see him during that time was actually because another returnee had been obstructing him.